So I wanted to do a video talking about the attraction between someone who has Asperger's syndrome or autism and someone who might have narcissistic personality disorder. Now, there are actually some overlaps in these people with this kind of issue. Oftentimes people with Asperger's or autism actually struggle with a lack of empathy, so they don't really register people's feelings a lot. It might come across as being quite rude when you're around them, or invalidating, because they're not picking up on your social cues, and oftentimes they have a very kind of strong mental point of origin on themselves, and so a lot of times a lot of their questions are directed and kind of more self-absorbed in a way, so they can actually sometimes completely ignore someone else and kind of focus on themselves. But generally speaking, you can teach people with Asperger's and autism to empathise and pick up on social cues and stuff like that. Now, not to say that is their fault and stuff like that. Obviously, there's certain reasons why they are like that, and that's why, generally speaking, with empathy, that's why it can give you a lot of social intelligence, because you're going to pick up on these kind of micro cues, and you'll become very calibrated very socially. So generally speaking, someone who is a narcissist is very socially very exploitative. So someone who might have autism or Asperger's who doesn't pick up on social cues is almost like an easy target. So the general dynamic I've seen is a little bit more common in men to have Asperger's and autism, generally speaking. And what I've seen is that oftentimes with, say, a very narcissistic individual, just on a separate end of the continuum, generally speaking, there is a lot of parallels between the two. But what I've seen is, for example, if there is a very narcissistic woman who's maybe like an overt narcissist, generally speaking, they will go out with someone maybe who's a bit more quiet, who might have Asperger's or autism. And they can be a very easy prey for the narcissist, because they're not going to pick up on the social cues that someone who doesn't have it has. So they won't actually have the social intelligence someone who is autistic or has Asperger's syndrome. They won't be able to pick up on these subtle forms of abuse the narcissist will be doing, and oftentimes will become more traumatized because of that. So because they don't have that heightened level of social awareness, it can be very easy for them to fall prey into all these manipulation strategies and stuff like this. So something what I have seen is where there'll be a very kind of very dominant female narcissist, and then with a very kind of quiet Asperger's kind of autistic man. So just being aware of that, and just kind of being aware of kind of that narcissistic people, they don't have empathy, they are very socially exploitative. They have an element of pathological envy. They actually have elements of they are pathological liars, stuff like this. And just being clued up, we have to keep your eyes wide open in a relationship. A lot of people are very naive into thinking that everyone is, they almost have this purity fantasy that everyone is these earth angels of morality, and really this isn't the case. And if you're going into a relationship thinking that, sometimes, I'm not saying that you shouldn't trust people by any stretch of the imagination, but just being careful and looking out for the red flags very, very early on. I've got a lot of videos on narcissism on the channel and stuff, so just kind of keep aware of that. Clear yourself up on narcissism so you can keep yourself safe in a relationship and avoid any kind of unnecessary narcissistic abuse. So hope you enjoyed that video, and speak to you soon.